As the season winds down in the second to last game of the Red Sox season, they try to end it with a bang as Nathan Eovaldi has a great start and Xander Bogaerts hits a grand salami right before the rain hits.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Massachusetts Power's team insider, Jake Ignaszewski, and here, as always, with my co-host, NESN's Lauren Willand. But we're getting down to the last few games. It's really crazy, Lauren. We did it. We were in the final stretch of the 2022 Red Sox season. And I think we did a pretty good job of really being able to not only recap, but make light of this tough season.
We were so hopeful in June too. Like we were on top of the world in June. It was such a different time during the season. But yeah, it started slow and we were like, no, that's whatever. It's the start of the season and things started to trend in the right direction and then it didn't. But overall, I mean, it was a crappy season for the Red Sox, and it's coming to a crappy end in terms of weather. I mean, they won the series now against the Rays, but I definitely had fun this season. I would have had more fun, of course, if they were winning more and there weren't the injuries there and my ring light didn't die either. But, that's the way it goes. If that is not a perfect metaphor for the Red Sox season, I don't know what is.
Also, I don't think we kept this in an episode, but I'll never forget the moment when your ring light fell on you, and I was in the middle of an ad read. I think I started reading the wrong ad read, but yeah, as you mentioned, perfect metaphor for how the season really went for the Red Sox throughout 2022. And you and I both went to games last week, and I mentioned in my episode right after going to what could be my final game at Fenway this season. It was sort of my first realization of how bad this team was. Obviously we talk about it 5 days a week. Teams in last place, not making the playoffs. But until I fully saw it on the Green Monster, that's when it fully sunk in that the team that was essentially paid for the tickets and was watching on the field really wasn't playing for anything. And was curious if you sort of had that similar feeling when you went to your game.
It's a different kind of vibe in Fenway, and you do feel it when the team isn't playing for anything, and maybe the fans just don't care as much. I don't know if that's really the right way to say it, but I just at this point in the season, I mean, they're playing the Orioles. The Orioles were still kind of in it. They weren't technically mathematically eliminated, so they were playing for something. But I got to see a win when I went last week, so that was a plus. But the vibe is very different than the September game when you're in the postseason or when something is on the line, you're fighting for the AL East or a spot in the wild card, as opposed to being 20 plus games out, just waiting for the season to end and just waiting for 2023 to come around because you just want to see good baseball. You want to see good quality baseball. And we got that at times this season, but we certainly have not gotten it a majority of the time. And that just goes to show from the Red Sox record, their injuries, and then just anything else that could have gone wrong did go wrong. But there was that kind of like sad vibe in Fenway. There were a lot of kids skip school. I went to an afternoon game, so A+ parenting right there, and it's really cheap. I got my tickets for $5. So that's how it's bad. But it was nice to go still. But it was, just a very, very different vibe when the team is not good in September compared to when they are good in September.
And that's something that I was most surprised about, honestly, with how bad the team was, how cheap the tickets were. And I remember I showed you the tickets. I also showed your husband Derek as well, because I couldn't believe that I got almost behind home plate for $38. And they're also doing they're having alumni at the front of the gates. Also during the last game, they're having kids run around the bases, and I say kids and the fact that I might actually pay for a ticket and go and run the bases. I don't know, but I think it'd be wicked fun, and I might actually not run around the bases. I might walk because I'll try and take it all in. Trying to think of some of the greats that I've grown up watching running around Fenway Park and those bases and everything like that. But there definitely was a very different vibe at Fenway Park. Was still very nice to be able to do all the festivities of Sweet Caroline. Go out to the Truly Bar, get a drink out there, and especially during my game as well, they won, and so being able to go down on Lansdowne, even though we're not celebrating a winning team, it was still nice for the team to get a win and sort of feel that energy around Lansdowne. And as the season's been winding down, that's one thing that I've been really trying to enjoy is still having Red Sox baseball, despite the team struggling, despite them not playing really for anything, still just being grateful that I get to turn on my TV and see the Red Sox, because, when I'm sitting on the couch or whatever in January or February, I'm going to miss that. And, hopefully, we're able to get some exciting news and really start to feel that buzz for 2023 early in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully all signs point to a busy off season. Whether that's a good or bad thing remains to be seen. Hopefully it's a good thing, but I'm excited. This is the most excitement and anxiousness I've approached an off season in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for 2023. Right now I am anyway. I mean, that could change in a couple of months once the World Series is over and free agency opens, winter meetings, and everything like that. But it was a trying season for the Red Sox, obviously, but it's like you said, it was still good to get to Fenway, and having the excitement in the park still did make me excited for 2023 and to see what this team does in the offseason. We've heard players say that Chaim Bloom has promised them it'll be a better season. We've heard Alex Cora hint toward a better 2023. I don't think it can get much worse. And I say that like it was a bad year for the Red Sox, but we've seen worse years. I mean, it was, 7, 8 years ago? I can't do math, that Bobby V was fired after one season and just like 60-ish. It was over 60, almost 70 wins, but it wasn't that bad. And I never want to relive those days again. But, now we just have to get through this one more game. If they play, it remains to be seen. It's going to be terrible in Boston on Wednesday. But now it's just a matter of let's put this 2022 behind us, look toward 2023, and just hope that everything that Chaim Bloom has said, everything that Sam Kennedy has said comes to fruition, because they have a lot of words to back up. And if they don't, it's going to get really ugly really quick.
Now, something that I said on this podcast last week, and I'm curious what your reaction to it was the possibility of Sam Kennedy bringing up the AllStar game coming back to Fenway. And he mentioned, it could come back for a 30th anniversary. Now, I said this in the episode, I was probably like 3 to 6 months old. So I've seen videos of it and everything like that. But as somebody who was a fan and was able to watch it and see the excitement, what was your feeling of that?
Yeah, I'm all for AllStar games being in Boston, around Boston, anything to make it fun. Boston's obviously a very fun city. I'm biased when it comes to that, but it's something that hasn't been here obviously for a very long time. And to think the 30th anniversary, I'm like, oh my God, already? That's crazy to think that it's getting that close. Yeah. But I would love for an AllStar game to come back here. I mean, it's America's most beloved ballpark. It's got so much history there. Players enjoy or dislike playing there for whatever reason they so choose. But I would love something like that. And maybe it would play in the Red Sox favor, because then any Red Sox All-Star doesn't have to travel or anything like that. So it's a win-win in every situation.
And all we can do is hope and pray that, with what Chaim Bloom has mentioned, the consistency, being consistently good for this team. Hopefully it's not sort of like the 100-year Fenway season where the team was absolutely atrocious. I think they lost 11-2 or something like that in the ultimate game against the Yankees. But hopefully, the team's able to be really good during the All-Star game when it ultimately does come back to Fenway. They're able to have tons of All-Stars be out there on the field. And it's a really cool moment. But, starting to look at the second to last game against the Tampa Bay Rays, we could have seen Nathan Eovaldi in his final game as a Boston Red Sox. What would you think of his performance today?
Yeah, I mean, he did what he could to get this team a win, and it helped with Xander Bogaerts providing the run support. But, it's probably his last start for the Red Sox. It's very unfortunate, but at the same time, you really have to look toward the future and see what and who makes your team better. But I mean, 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and it's technically a complete game. So he shut out the Rays, his former team. So that was obviously very good to see. And I said this about Rich Hill, how at this point, you just want to end your season, whether it's an individual or a team, you want to end it on a high note. Rich Hill did that. Nate Eovaldi certainly did that. But, Nate Eovaldi's still young, but he's had so many injuries, this year included. You think of the 2 Tommy Johns, the elbow surgeries in recent years as well. Yes, he could be an injury liability, but he can get the job done. Will the Red Sox retain him? I don't think so. But, I mean, everything he's done for this team since he got here has been wonderful. 2018, we will never forget Eovaldi for 2018 and nearly throwing his arm off, and Alex Cora not going to Drew Pomeranz while he just sits in the bullpen by himself. But like I said, Eovaldi just did everything he could for the Red Sox on Tuesday to make sure they won. They did, and it was a really good regardless if it was his last start in Boston or not, or for Boston, it was still a really good way to end his 2022 season.
He really left it all out on the field, and I believe ended his Red Sox career in a bang, if that is the case. And it's pretty crazy as well that he ultimately could have ended his Red Sox career pitching against the team who initially traded him to Boston during the trade deadline in 2018. Who would have thought 4 years later, he would have been able to put out this type of performance against his former team?
Yeah, I mean, it's full circle kind of moment. I mean, I think he's pitched for several teams in the AL East. I can't remember if it's all of them or close to all of them, but yeah, I mean, he did it perfectly for his last start. Unfortunately, it ended due to rain. I think he probably would have gone out there for the 6th, maybe the 7th. He did look really comfortable on the mound, and it was just like you said, just he did it. Went out. He's going out with a bang, and it's a really good way to go into free agency, whether that's negotiations with the Red Sox or someone else, because he's still a solid pitcher. He's still reliable. Yeah. He can get the job done. So to end the season the way he did, it could have gone way worse. It could have been 6-0 Rays, and people are going to be like, oh, that's how we're going to remember Eovaldi in 2022. But no, we're going to remember Eovaldi in 2022 by shutting out the Rays in his potential last start for the Red Sox.
And one thing that I think that mostly comes to people's mind is obviously that Game 3 in the 2018 World Series, where he ultimately ended up almost pitching a full 8-9 innings in that extra 18 innings, I believe, against the Dodgers. Ultimately ended up losing that game, but still, the Red Sox wouldn't have been able to stay in it and rest their bullpen arms for the remainder of that series. And the one thing that I would say is people also need to remember for him for his 2021 season, essentially becoming that ace of that team. And most people forget who's on the mound in the wild card game when you need it most against the New York Yankees and shut them down. That was Nathan Eovaldi. And it was unfortunate that we saw him allow a lot of home runs throughout this year. That was one of the biggest things they struggled with. And he had some inconsistent starts, but at the end of the day, over his time period with this team, he's giving you exactly what you've asked for. And also, it's not like the team really signed him to be that ace pitcher, which he essentially was for 2 of the 4 years they was here.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because when they signed him, they had Chris Sale, and he was supposed to be the ace, and injuries and just unfortunate happenstances just put Eovaldi into that ace role, and he took it by the horns. There was no hesitation there for him to step up. And you point to the 2021 season, which is just the perfect example of that, because that's exactly what he did. He was called upon in big games. He was trustworthy. He was reliable, and he did everything he could to provide the Red Sox a chance to win. He kept games close, and he wasn't the only one who struggled with home runs. I felt like every starting pitcher this season just could not stop the long ball for the life of them. I feel like the only ones not hitting home runs were the Red Sox, and it was just I think we talked about this before. It's like very Rick Porcello-esque, where it's just like you just give up those home runs no matter what. But overall, I think Red Sox fans should be happy with Eovaldi and what he's done over his time with the Red Sox, whether it was his last start or not. But we're going to treat it like it was for now. And I just think that he did exactly what he came here to do. He helped win a World Series. He helped keep the team in the postseason last year. And he ended 2022 with a pretty strong outing.
Yeah. And, all I wish is that, despite the rain, I wish he was able to get that final curtain call. I wish he was able to get that tip of the cap. It's not like obviously he played for the team for, a long period of time, but still 4 years is 4 years, and he did a lot for this organization. But hopefully the Sox can find, more security, not only in their rotation, but also in their offense to hit more home runs. But if you're looking for some good security, Simply Safe is the place for you. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe home security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I use Simply Safe on my own home. They protect you with the cutting-edge security technology powered with 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. And here's why I love it. I'm somebody who, not only with their packages on their front step, but also just for all the valuable things that I have in my house, I want to know that my belongings and that my house is going to be safe. And Simply Safe does an amazing job with this, with their advanced technology, with whether it's controlling your system with my phone through their app, or watching the crystal clear HD live stream with my security cameras and their wide variety of high-tech sensors. Customize the perfect system for your house in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonmlb. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/lockedonmlb to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. So looking into the offensive output that the Red Sox had against the Rays in this rainout, they were still able to muster 5 hits, 6 earned runs. And as we mentioned throughout this episode, Xander Bogaerts was the one who had the big home run with the grand salami over the monster for his 15th home run. And he's somebody who throughout this season has been spoken about his downward production with the home run ball, but 15 home runs at the end of the day and being close to winning the batting title looks like a well-earned paycheck for him after this season.
Yeah, and I think too what makes his season even all the more impressive is he's been dealing with a wrist injury since May. And he was forward about that. He said that it's something he got treatment on and it's still kind of bugging him. So imagine if he was 100% healthy. He's probably hitting 25 home runs. And the fact that he had a down year in terms of offense, but still was in the chase for a batting title up until the end of the season is still really, really impressive. I think that, we've talked about this several times on this show that the Red Sox need to do everything they can to make sure he stays a member of the Red Sox. If the second he opts out, I'm sure he's going to opt out, they sign him to a brand new deal. And it needs to be reasonable. I know that that's the hard part there. It needs to be what he deserves, but it also needs to be make sure that the Red Sox don't spend all of their money on him, because you still have people like Rafael Devers. What do you want to do with him? What are you going to do about your bullpen that needs a ton of help there? So, but their priority needs to be Bogaerts. And he continued to prove that all season. When he's not 100% healthy, he's giving 100% of himself. And you don't find many guys like him on every single team. I mean, there's people who's going to hit 15 home runs. There's people who are going to hit over 300. We know that. But the impact that Bogaerts has on the team, on the players, on the fans is just unmatched. And if you let that go, it's going to be a lot worse than how fans reacted when Mookie was traded. Because at least they could see the Mookie Betts trade coming. They saw that from a mile away. But knowing, hearing just the motivation, I guess, from Kennedy and Bloom that they want to re-sign Bogaerts and that they plan to. We've heard it all before. We all know actions speak louder than words. But the effort Bogaerts is giving you, not just on Tuesday in a game that means nothing to the Red Sox, but all season. Even the Red Sox were way out of it in July when they won 6 games in July. Who's giving you the effort? It's Bogaerts.
Mm-hmm. And he's also somebody as well, you mentioned the wrist. He's playing through that because he wants to work for the Red Sox and he wants to do everything in his power to stay on the field because he knows that the team is better when he is on the field. And, we've heard it from guys like Pedro Martinez, David Ortiz, Alex Verdugo, that the Red Sox need him on this team, not only just for his offense his on-field output, but also what he does behind the scenes in the clubhouse. And, we also heard Trevor Story mention that was one of the biggest reasons why he signed with the team. So then Xander would be a part of the long-term plans, and how much he's really enjoyed being able to play side by side with Xander. And, it's been really interesting to see sort of, how everything has transpired around those talks. It's really been, even though obviously I'm guessing Xander and also the Red Sox didn't want that to be the main storyline of throughout this entire season, but it really has been. I think that has just been a massive wake-up call for not only this ownership, but for this front office, that they need to figure out a plan and that they need to lock up their cornerstones so then fans actually have some motivation to want to show up to the park.
Yeah, it's the priority, right? It is Bogaerts, and you need to, like I said, they need to make sure that he's not going anywhere. It's gonna be a really interesting offseason, especially with what happens with Bogaerts, and he's always giving 100%. And like you said, he's playing through a wrist injury because he wants to be there for the team. And when you get the wrist injury in May, they weren't out of it in May. We could have made that argument then, but he wants to put forward his best effort at all times. And I'm 100% okay with not talking about contracts in the season. I understand why it can be a distraction, and I'm 100% okay with that, because Bogaerts has also expressed his desire to stay here. And he also said at some point during the season that he'd be open to talking during the season. But, it's the agent that does all the chatting. And when you have Scott Boras on your side, you're talking when he wants to talk. And that's fine. That's his job. So that doesn't really bother me, because the whole distraction thing. But it needs to happen. 5 days after the World Series is when free agency opens, or whatever it is. The second that free agency window opens, you are in Scott Boras' office. You're at Xander Bogaerts' home. I don't care where you are. You're having him sign the new contract with the Red Sox, because that needs to be the priority. And I felt, at the beginning of the year, I was like, whatever, it doesn't need to be taken care of right now. But now it does. We're at the end of the season. 162 games are almost in the books. You need to make the movement right away on Bogaerts.
And, just one last thing that I wanted to speak about, looking at this game is, Christian Arroyo went 2 for 2 in this game with an RBI, has continued to show you why he deserves a bigger role in 2023. And, this is the first glimpse of, I guess, a mid to full season of Christian Arroyo, or extended season, because, he seems to have had COVID a billion times and get injured every other week over his past few seasons with the Red Sox. But it's been really nice to see him start to flourish into his own. And then also, lastly, Eric Hosmer went 1 for 3. He was one of the other guys who had a great game in this one. And, despite me questioning why the Red Sox brought him back for 2 games, I still don't get it. But it was nice to hear Alex Cora talk about the presence that he has in the clubhouse. And I'm very excited to see if the Red Sox decide to either trade him or keep him along for the 2023 season. But we're going to be here breaking down everything that goes on for the remainder of one more game of this Red Sox season, and also to continue to recap what happened throughout this season and get you ready for the 2023 Red Sox season and get you excited as well. But if you have not yet, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Red Sox on whatever audio platform that you listen to, or over on YouTube. You can also follow us over on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox. You can follow myself on Twitter. It's at Iggy, and also Lauren. 3 laws. Lauren with 4 R's. But as always, we greatly appreciate everybody making Locked On Red Sox their first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective, his passion, and humor for the daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB. Go over and check it out over on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. But we're going to end it how we always end it. Let's go Sox. Peace.